So now we're going to look at what are called Box-and-Whisker or box plots. And what a box plot does is it takes the information in terms of quartiles that we saw earlier and uses that to give a nice representation for the behavior of the entire data set, where it uses something called a 5-number summary. And the 5-number summary is just a quick way to talk about generally the shape of the data set. It takes the minimum, Q1, Q2, Q3, and the maximum as sort of a picture for what happens to the entire data set, and then we use that to construct a oddly shaped plot, where what we do is construct a horizontal scale that spans the data. So you draw an axis below, then you plot the 5 numbers above the horizontal scale. That is, you plot the values from the 5-number summary, then draw a box above the scale from Q1 to Q3 with a vertical line above Q2, and draw whiskers from the box to the minimum and maximum entries. Where I'll say that for this construction there are a couple of variations that we can use. For one, sometimes you'll see these things made vertically instead of horizontally, but it still has the same meaning. And another thing that can change here is sometimes when you're talking about a box plot, you don't want to include outliers because they don't actually have a reasonable meaning for the data set. So we'll throw those out and instead use the values on the edges of the range for an outlier in terms of the IQR as the representative instead. So mainly, I'm going to leave this off to the calculator so you can see how you can make this in the calculator because, well, I think that's a cleaner picture for this type of work. And it's also a bit more useful for you guys to do it that way. But since we're here, I'm also going to do one quick one using that hurricane data. So if you want to think about what we could do here to make a box plot, we're going to make our horizontal axis. We're going to make sure that our data fits. So I'm going to go, since we went from 1 to 5, from 0 out to 6. And I'm going to pull the values in the middle, noting the fact that I'm not having a lucky day today because I couldn't draw that perfectly to scale. But what we're going to do then is take these values and use them to form our summary. So here, up there is what our minimum is, and then at 2, we got our value for Q1. Then 4 was unfortunately both Q2, the median, and the third quartile, and then 5 was our maximum. So we're going to draw that box like so, and normally when you draw this sort of box, you'd put an extra vertical line in there to denote Q3, but since I can't, I'm just going to make that a little bit thicker. And then you draw the whiskers out towards that minimum and maximum, and here's something like that they call it a box and whisker plot. I think it looks a little bit more like a battery diagram, but that's just me. This is the general shape you should expect to get.